Hello and welcome to the Dark Gray project. Today we want to talk about real steel sights for airsoft against fake ones. To be fair, we're using real steel sights now for quite a while in our airsoft guns, but we want to give you an understanding about the differences between the fakes and the real sights because, to be honest, a lot of guys who run fake sights on the airsoft guns don't really know what they're really missing out on the real sights. Additionally, we want to give you a brief overview about potential budget solutions for quality sights. And if you're in a really tight budget, we want to give you a couple of advices what to look out for if you really have to go for a fake one. So at the end, you have a good understanding if it's really worth for you or not. Now, before we start to go into all the differences, let's talk about one very important fact. We really believe that any kind of red dot or holo sight, whatever it is, gives you significant advantage at a mid or close range. Now, people can tell me a lot about muscle memory and so on, but just ask any competition shooter or real steel shooter if he desperately wants to go back to his iron sights. The first difference is reliability. Well, it's not a big surprise that real sights are made for real recoil on real guns, while the fake ones are not. That's not the big issue or the main difference, at least for us airsofters. The main difference is they are made for abuse. I mean, the real ones, they're made for military or law enforcement, which means if you go through a tight door frame, if you bump against your teammate, you're falling down, you're going prone, your gun drops, whatsoever, a real sight will survive the abuse. If you don't want to believe me, just watch the Vicar Tactical TV. He had an episode where he wanted to test the reliability of a gun. But after all the explosions and throwing it out of a helicopter and drowning it, the shining star, in my opinion, was the Micro T1, which survived all that ordeal. Now, the fake one, on the other hand, I started my airsoft career with a really shitty sight, which turned off if I shaked it too hard. So I was running around, because I'm shaking it, get my sight up, and it was turned off. That really pissed me off. So the other part about reliability is the zero topic, zero turrets especially. Now, I'm not talking about them breaking off or whatnot. I mean, that can always happen. No, I'm talking about these little barricades if you reach the end of the adjustment range. The real ones have a really strong barricade, and it's really hard to break that one. While the fake ones, this resistance is so little, and if you get over it, your adjustment possibilities can break. And that is really shitty because then you can't zero your sight anymore. Now, difference number 2 is glass quality. And I want to start with glass reflection. The real ones are coated. So if the sun is in a bad angle, like so when you're back, you can still see through your glass. With the fake ones, we had trouble to film it and to show you the reticle on this, for example, this fake EOTech here. And that was really a problem for us at that time. The other point is that the real ones have a way clearer glass. So the EOTechs, for example, is one of the clearest ones. The aim points, they have still a small little tint. I'm not talking about the T2s, but the T1s and the Pros. While the fake ones, the tint, some of them is so strong, that's like going into a club of sunglasses. And you need some really good drugs to justify that. Now, at that moment, I would like to mention a big forum article of a guy, which I read a while ago, talking about recommendations for night games. So he stated that if you go to a low-vis game or night game, you shouldn't use any red dots because they're way too bright and you can't see anything anyhow, so just use iron sights. Well, this guy never really used a real sight. Now, I'm going to talk about brightness settings in a few seconds, but because the glass is so clear and I can tune down the brightness setting so low on my real sight, I can barely see the dot in a pitch black room. That's how low I can set it down. So this gives me still a significant advantage in low light situations because I can still use my red dot. Now, I mentioned it already, difference number 3 going to be brightness settings. Well, it's a no-brainer that the real ones have more brightness settings. The actual kicker here is the maximum brightness and the lowest settings. Now, the very high ones you need, for example, if you are aiming towards the sun, if the sun is very low in the evening or morning, or if you are in a very bright environment like a desert, or the background is very bright because it's a sunny day and there's a white house wall. The tricky part is that the real ones get really low, so you can barely see them with the naked eye. Even the non-night vision compatible real sights can get so low that you can briefly use it with your knots. Now, the fake ones, to be fair, because they're using LEDs, they can get relatively bright, which is okay, to be honest, for most situations. The bigger problem, however, is because they're so bright, they can't get very low. And as I mentioned before, that is really shitty in any kind of low light situation, especially in conjunction with a tinted glass, or especially, of course, using it with knots. A lot of fake sites try to compensate that lack of brightness settings with the option to change between different colors. But who the fuck needs color options for your red dot? Don't give me any big speech about green is better for that, blue is better for this. Red is perfectly fine, except you're fighting, I don't know, in a laser tag arena or a red dot district. I mean, the last one sounds kind of awesome, but probably very unlikely. Now I want to take this moment for another little rant, because there was this famous YouTube Airsoft celebrity dude who mentioned, oh, if you run knots, you're just using your IR laser, you don't use your optics anymore, which is kind of bullshit, because we're using our real optics a lot nowadays with knots, because our opponents now have knots as well. So I don't want to give them away, first of all, our position by using an IR laser, or giving them the knowledge that we are having knots because we're using IR lasers. So we are running a lot of night vision compatible optics to engage them in a passive way without giving them all this information. Difference number 4 is the zero topic. Sure, the fake ones, you have this positive clicks, it's a lot more precise, it's a lot more accurate, while the fake ones, yeah, it's very smooth, it kind of feels like butter, but that's not really the point. The point is, the real ones, you have a wider range of adjustment going up, down, left, or right, which is quite important actually for airsoft guns, because our trajectory is a little bit of a funny one. So that means a real optic on a fake gun is more suitable than the specific fake sights made for fake guns.